Doing this video to explain raid spawning mechanics and how that can be applied to speedrunning with a better way of getting a better set seed for speedrunning. Now, there's a lot to explain, so I guess I'm just gonna wing it. So yeah, if my game might crash in this road because for whatever reason when I was building it, it kept crashing on me, which is really annoying. So hopefully that doesn't happen while I'm explaining everything. So every model here, one block in any of these models is actually one block in the real 4x4x4 block in the real world. So it just scales things down to make it easier to see. So first, starting off with the Pillager outpost, where you kill your the captain with the flag on top. The actual because they can spawn farther away from here, and that size is 74 by 54 by 74. Centered around this diamond block is where they can spawn, and that could be seen visually by this stained glass here. It's to scale. The only way it's not slightly to scale is up and down because it was decimals whenever I divide and shrink it down. So yeah, basically that structure size is basically this structure in the center, and as you can see, there's the diamond blocks and the white spaced around. So this entire box has to be out of this entire red sphere, which is 112 blocks in radius, with the center of the village being in the center. The reason why it has to be outside this is anything that is inside the sphere that's a raid mob counts towards the raid cap. Anything that's outside it, like for example here, does not count towards it. And this sphere applies going from above to even below the village. Now for actual spawning of the raid wave, is what it does is it goes to the village center, picks a random angle, goes out to for example this beacon here on this outer ring, and then first like for example let's say it picks this one, it checks to see if the block is possible, like the top block is possible to spawn on. If it's water, it can't. So if it can't spawn there because it's invalid, it randomly picks a different angle and then goes out and tries again. And let's say it picks this one, this beacon here. It randomly adds 0 to 4 on its x and y, but since one block here is equal to a 4x4 area, it is what this beacon is. Once it picks the actual exact block, what it does is it does the highest block that has sky access to it. So for example, once it picked this one, it goes up to here. It doesn't spawn on this block here because it has no sky access. It would spawn on this one here. So it would spawn up here. Now this is still inside the red sphere, so that these mobs here would still count. Now the trick of a wave skip is once it picks a block and goes up, if the top block that has sky access is outside this red sphere, then any mobs that the raid would spawn here, but since it's outside, it'll skip it and immediately go and spawn the next wave. And that's basically how wave skip works. Now the reason why there's multiple rings is because let's say it keeps failing on spawning these other ones, because either by picking water so many times in that. Once it fails 20 times on the outer ring, it then tries again with the same steps, except on the smaller ring. If this ring fails 20 times as well, then it tries to spawn it right on the village center. And then if that fails 20 times, the raid just ends. You don't win, you don't lose, it just stops. So yeah, that is how raids work, and this is a model of how it looks like in a normal example. So like using a village like the current world record does. Now there is ways to take this to our advantage. So this model here is an igloo. So you don't, like the center of the village doesn't have to be the village structure, just as long as you make a village. So we can do this from an igloo by taking the bed from the top, going into the basement, and just placing the bed, and then freeing the villager. And that there, right there, the green card goes, the village is created. So what this does is, since the village is not on the surface anymore, like this grass here represents the surface, so since the basement is underground, it essentially moves the village below down. So instead of having a bigger 2D circle here, it's actually smaller. And because it is smaller, you can actually have your outpost slightly closer compared to if it was on the same level as the regular model over there. So then based on that, since we essentially moved the center of the village below the ground, we do not need as high as a hill in order to make it outside of the radius of where it counts towards the mob cap. Now this here is based on, the hill is based on this seed here. The maximum ladder length is 36 blocks down, which is represented by this scale here. So essentially, the longer the ladder, the less higher the hill you need to be. Now this hill here is actually based off of a in-game seed that I can show you right here. This seed right here. The only difference compared to the model that's shrunk down by 4 is just that this one has a shorter ladder, but it still essentially shows the same. So the center village is down there, and then all the way up, of course, starts snowing, is way up here. And I mapped it out, and I mapped it 4 times smaller into the wave diagram. So that's what you're seeing here. So basically, the trick of it working is dependent on, it picks a random direction, which in this case you're hoping it would go here, goes here, then it checks for the highest block, which would be way up here, and then it spawns it here. And when it spawns it here, the game doesn't see it as a part of the raid, and then it spawns the next one. No cooldown is required between the raids. So that's basically how it works. Now, the more green beacons you have in here, which is representing spawn locations that will work for wave skip, the better, higher chance. Because what you're hoping is the random chance to pick one of these. Now, since the main focus would be on the outside here, only reason why you would care to focus is if it happens to go into one of the smaller rings, because the outer ring failed for whatever reason. But anyways, out of this outer ring, we have 19 good locations / beacons where the raid would spawn, and then it would also skip it. But this is out of 156 beacons around this outer ring. So that means to skip one wave out of the raid is 19 over 156. Do that 3 times, and this seed here is the actual seed I found there is actually a 0.18% chance of it actually doing a wave skip, given I had a Pillager outpost that I can get the bad omen from. Now so that's the one method. The other method uses the fact of trying to get it spawn in the center. So since this here would all be ocean with a igloo in the center, so what would happen is when it goes and picks a block, since it's ocean and it's just water, it can't spawn. It does that 20 times, fails. Tries this 20 times, fails. So then the only spot left is right on top of the igloo. And since you can pretty well exactly find the spot where they spawn, either you can put a ruined portal to teleport them away to the nether where they no longer count, or you can put lava down and do a lava trap that automatically kills them. Another method, just to mention, is you can probably pillar up from here in the center, and if you pillar up high enough, so you're outside the red sphere, then if this block is randomly chosen, then it would be actually outside and it would skip. Now, since all the wave would spawn on this one block, they would most likely fall off. But given that it would be high enough, when they fall off, they would count towards the rate, but then they would probably just die whenever they hit the ground. So that is that method. I think I have everything covered. I am going to try to get this road as a download. And so yeah, everything is just 4 times smaller. So this one here, this outer one is 112 radius. This one here is a 64 radius. This one here is a 32. And then this here is a 0 radius. I just want to check my note that I'm missing. If I'm missing everything, that should be all. But basically, the summary is basically we're trying to get the equivalent of a automatic raid farm as a natural organic within a Minecraft seed. Is the easiest way to summarize this up. I hope I covered everything, and I think it should be good. I have signs to explain things, so if when you're in the world, you can kind of see what everything is about. So yeah.